Howdy, and welcome to the Choose a Happy Day show, a podcast for women who want to up-level their life, manifest those dreams, and just live happier. If you have vision boards, love energy work, are into psychics, and feel you are meant for something more in this life, then this show is for you. Hi, I'm Lorraine Toth, an award-winning filmmaker, author, Reiki master, photographer, and creative genius who also loves to vision board. And I am here to bring you all of the tips and tricks to help you up-level your life. Now let's go and hop on that happy train.
So hello everyone and welcome to the Choose a Happy Day show. Today I have a very special guest that I go way back with. Her name is Molly Brindle, and she is here to talk about all things energy and life and happiness and everything. Welcome, Molly.
Thank you. It's so good to see you again.
You too.
You know, we spent some miserable time together.
We did. So Molly and I were just talking off camera about how we used to work together at a certain place. We'll say,
yes.
We don't have to name it, but
we don't.
We were in cubicles.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And if you've listened to me or seen me before, you clearly know that's not my style.
No boundaries.
I was a caged animal, basically. Yes. And Molly worked next to me in a different cubicle, and you seemed equally as miserable. And we broke out of that.
Yeah, we did. I know, but it took a pandemic.
It did. Is that what changed
break us out of that? Yes, I mean, it was a very creative environment. It had all that going for it.
Yes.
Being in the cubes was not the greatest.
No.
I know. And I was about the oldest person working there, which was also weird. So it made me feel like an outlier for sure. Aww. At any rate, it was fun while it lasted. But then when we were freed, you were freed a little earlier than that. You freed yourself.
I did free
myself. I waited till I walked out the door and sat on the couch and said, and now for something completely different.
Yes. So that's what I wanted to talk about. So if you can just introduce yourself to our audience and tell them what you do now.
Yep. So I am Molly Brindle, and many know me for many, many years working at the racetrack for Time Warner Cable and other places in sales. It was a very traditional life in sales with lots of friends and lots of volunteering. But then when the pandemic happened, I took what I had used or learned from my Reiki mentor, Gina Clemente, and I decided that it was time for me to go into energy medicine. So I trained.
I love that.
I trained from 2020 until 2022.
Okay.
And then broke out on my own and set up a business called Life Clarity. And originally it was going to be life coaching. So I was simultaneously studying life coaching with Michael Neal. And he offers spiritual coaching and other types of traditional life coaching. That was not manifesting as well. So it became apparent that the downloads or messages that I received when I was doing Reiki sessions were really the form of coaching that I was meant to do. So now I just share intuitive guidance where it's appropriate. And it's not always appropriate to share.
Yes.
Sometimes we right. Well, luckily I haven't learned it the hard way yet, but I usually ask for what should I know and what should I share during a session. And then sometimes just things will come to me. Interestingly, sometimes they come as lines from songs, which might harken back to my years in radio and media, but I'll get a line from a song. It happened just the other day. Without naming a name, I did lose a friend from my radio days, and when I was sending Reiki to him, because you can send distance Reiki, you just simply put your hands, you're trained in this also, put your hands together and set the intention. And I was saying goodbye, and a song, I'm trying to remember what the song was that I had for him. I just heard it on the radio, also meant to be, right? So I sang a line from that song to him in my Reiki session, and what I heard back from him was, all we are is dust in the wind.
Oh, yes, I know that song.
Dust in the wind.
So to clarify for our audience, where you perform performing Reiki on someone else, or were you doing it on yourself?
Oh, no, I was sending Reiki to he was in transition.
Okay.
I do work for hospice now
Okay.
also as a volunteer, so I do Reiki in a hospice setting.
Okay.
He was in the final stages of death.
Okay. So he was physically still
Physically,
here on
feel
Earth.
like he was physically still, but our soul starts to depart. So, well, our soul we're just using a fragment of our soul energy in our physical manifestation.
Yes.
So there's bits and pieces of us in other places.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that. So he was in between both worlds.
In between those worlds, right.
Oh, and so you gave him comfort through the Reiki?
Yes. Yes. I wanted to say goodbye and just ease the transition. The physical body struggles. It's difficult to breathe.
Yes.
I've done Reiki before when people they're really struggling to breathe, and you just have to help them relax because it's stressful.
It is.
The body sometimes has trouble letting go.
Right.
But the spirit is ready.
Absolutely.
And I've learned so much from my work in hospice. It's just like it goes hand in glove with the work that I'm doing now with people who are experiencing just normal lifetime stress and anxiety.
Yes.
Which we
both used to have back in our cubicle days, right?
Yes.
And I have to say, you're so much lighter now, right?
Yes.
Your physical body is so much lighter, so your energy is more uplifted. Do you feel happier?
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh. We all have bad days.
Yes.
I mean, earlier today I was tired. I didn't, feel as energetic as I normally did, but now we understand the energy ebbs and flows.
Yes.
There were solar flares aplenty just in the past few days. We saw them in the physical form of the aurora borealis, the northern lights. And you remember, I think it was a year ago, they came as far south, you could see them in the southern United States.
Oh.
So solar flares cause certain disruptions to our energy level, but the other are just planetary influences.
Yes.
That's something I have not learned as much about. I still rely on others to talk about horoscope and astrology.
Yes.
And I take their information, but that is one reason why I wanted to go to Mount Shasta for the Lionsgate portal. Did you know that actually starts in July?
I didn't, but for those that aren't familiar, the Lionsgate portal is 8/8, right?
Yes.
Correct, August 8th.
And this year is an 8 for those viewing this in the year 2024. 2024, if you add up the digits, is an 8. 8 is the symbol of infinity. Wow. So it's 888. And so we were there on Mount Shasta in ceremony on 888, and a hummingbird, a female, it was almost all female group of 20. There were 3 men. We were glad to have them. And a female hummingbird flew in and flew above each of us. And the emotion, I don't know, I have attachment to hummingbirds, but the fact that she circled the group felt as if that was the manifestation of spirit joining us, and that became really emotional for me. I just burst into tears.
Yeah, which that's good is what I learned in Reiki. It's just get it out.
Get the emotions out. Yeah, and actually that's a really good point. I was with someone yesterday in a session at hospice who found something emotional, and she said, "I don't know why I'm crying." I said, "I do, because it needs to come out."
Good, let it out.
You feel your feels.
Yes.
That is something a teacher has taught me, is you really have to let your emotions out. If not, they bottle up inside us and they can become disease.
Yes, I love that. That's always been my thing.
Yeah.
Which brings us into my questions. So I have a list of questions for Molly here today. So I guess
you do.
Of course I do. So first of all, we'll get in on my first question for you, which was energy medicine labels and resistance, which kind of ties into that disease, correct?
Yes, it can sometimes come from organized religion as well.
Yes.
I have noticed that the stronger a person's faith in a traditional religious group, particularly for some reason Catholicism, I think because there's a strong belief in light and darkness and a fear of darkness in that religion, they feel this could be bringing in darkness, or I could be reading thoughts.
Yes.
And we don't.
Right.
We don't. I mean, we feel things through our hands, right? We feel heat or tingling energy. We might be guided or get a message as to where someone needs assistance. Sometimes we don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Other times, if the person needs to know whatever's for their highest good, we'll get the message. You have a gallbladder issue,
Yes.
or you might have. I had one person who was going to have an ovarian cyst burst. It didn't happen for some weeks, but I said, you need to be prepared. This doesn't feel right.
Yes.
But I didn't know that any other way other than the message came into my head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes in through the crown chakra,
Yes.
which is connected to the divine.
Yes, right here. For those of you
Yes.
watching on YouTube, right?
That's
the top
right.
of your head. Is that how we would describe that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can feel it tingle when it's opening. So in your third eye, you can also feel
Yes,
that
right.
tingling. But I have two ways of approaching. If a person is not attached to a spiritual belief,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll talk about Reiki as quantum physics.
Yes.
I'll say we're all energy. Our
Mhm.
cells are vibrating. You're like a radio station. You're vibrating at, let's say, 60 megahertz.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to up level that.
Yes.
We're going to take you up. I can't say how much
Mhm.
because that's not up to me.
Right.
But I bring in the energy,
Mm-hmm.
and then the energy flows through here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's heart centered, but it comes up the hands.
Yes.
So, and those who are spiritual, I say, if you have read the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
the healing hands.
Yes.
We all have healing hands.
Oh,
We all
we do
have the
yeah.
potential
Yeah.
to do this.
Yes, we do.
Some of us decide to train in it, and others don't.
Yes.
But anyone can heal.
They can. And they can heal themselves, right?
They can.
Yeah.
And Reiki level 1 is taught that way,
Mm-hmm.
how to do self-healing. When it was created in Japan, that was the purpose of it, because remote mountain villages didn't have a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So you would heal yourself or your neighbor and family.
Mm-hmm.
And you would just allow the healing to take place, and then you had to trust. You had to have trust and faith that it would last.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very important, if the person isn't willing to receive it, I'm sure you found the same thing, it doesn't really work.
Yes.
So if they're a doubting Thomas or Thomasina,
But it might help them think about how their thoughts can correlate, or how maybe their sore throat, or always having to clear their throat is a blocked throat chakra, right?
Yes,
so
right.
perhaps that manifests that they're not always speaking their truth in their life. Maybe there's something in their life that's bothering them, and they're not speaking up for themselves, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And of course, each chakra correlates with a color,
Yes.
or a certain sound level. So each one has a frequency, and each color has a frequency.
Yes.
They're like colors of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
So our root chakra is red, and we stop at purple.
Mm-hmm.
But there are more than the 7 chakras within the torso of the body.
Yes.
There's many, many more. The ones that are above us connect us to higher spiritual entities.
Yes, divine guidance,
Divine
right?
guidance,
I love
right.
that.
That's right.
Which we always can use when we're trying to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
Like just tune into that
That's true.
higher power.
And
energy.
that's one of the things I'm still working on,
Mhm.
is tuning in and making decisions from that.
Yes.
So that's the reason I have to do Reiki on myself.
Yes. And meditation. Meditation saved me many a time, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the sacred stillness
Yes.
that I spoke of. That
Oh, yes.
we need that quiet.
Yes, I think that's one of my questions here, right? And so
Yeah.
my third question down is sacred stillness and how it can help us in happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So can you speak on that?
Yeah. Well, I learned working all those years in radio and television. We're bombarded. We receive more than 10,000 messages from external sources every day. Now with social media, I'm sure that's infinitely higher.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't have quiet in their lives. And this is why meditation is so important. And people are afraid of it because they think it has to be systematized, or that they can't quiet their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Most people can't quiet their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually say it just starts with breathing and paying attention to your breathing.
Yes.
And even if you can just be quiet for 5 minutes a day, will be helpful.
Yes.
Because in the sacred stillness is when, if you believe in a soul or your higher self, this is when we hear from it and we connect.
Yes.
And if we're not tuning in, and we're tuned out all the time, then we're spending all our time in the 3D physical world.
Yes.
And not enough soul time.
Right. And not enough time reflecting and doing that inner work, right?
Right.
And listening.
That's right.
Ah,
Well,
okay.
listening is a great quality
Mhm.
in all aspects of life.
Mhm.
If we learn to listen to others, then we really hear them.
Yes.
And I tried to practice that when I was in sales all those years. Blah, 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 we'd talk.
Yes.
But you really had to listen.
Yes.
And to hear the client.
You did. And there were subtleties, right? And their body language and everything, right? And their
Yes.
breathing patterns, right?
You talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
You said you used those skills. Those were in your toolbox
Yes,
already.
they're in my toolbox.
Yeah. But
She listened.
it's just being human.
Yes.
Right? In our humanity, we need to listen and listen compassionately.
Mm-hmm.
That was the value of going through the life coaching training first with Michael Neal, because that was what he hammered home.
Mm-hmm.
Listen fully.
Yes.
Be fully present when you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
Not, I'm thinking about how I have to be at such and such a place. Not, my kids might be calling, phone off.
Yes.
Really listening. And when people feel heard,
Mm-hmm.
it is healing for them.
It is.
Just our energy,
Yes.
just our presence.
Mm-hmm.
We don't realize, because we have auric fields around us, that our energy field is healing other people just by our presence.
Yes. I love that.
Yeah, that's why, another reason why you have to keep your energy field pretty clean and not be expelling anger. There's a lot of that now.
Yes. I think that's why we weren't good in that closed cubicle world. Our energy was just like, let me out of here, right?
Well, we sometimes just have to go down and get coffee.
We did a lot. Field trip.
I can smell the coffee.
All right. So my next question for you, I don't even know how to pronounce this, the benefits of Shinrin-yoku.
Japan, another, just like Reiki, was invented in Japan and started being practiced in the early part of the 20th century, then migrated to Hawaii and eventually to, well after World War II, because it was Japanese in origin, it became acceptable to teach it in the United States and probably California and then eastward. Now it's global, but Shinrin-yoku was invented literally by the Japanese Department of Agriculture and Ministry of Agriculture. And they did this because they were noticing urban growth and just an absolute obsession in Asian culture with work. So live to work, not work to live.
Yes.
And they had a rise in, they have a term for it, I think it's karoshi, which is a form of suicide from work or illness from work. Karoshi is a serious problem even today with young people in Korea. There's just, everyone is driven to perfection and perform. So living in urban areas, they didn't have access to trees. So they created Shinrin-yoku trails. And this is where they just had plants and trees, and they began studying the effects of trees on our lives. So trees are sentient beings.
Yes.
They have much wisdom. They take in our carbon, so they're part of reducing our carbon footprint. They are releasing oxygen for us to breathe, but they also release phytoncides. And phytoncides are how they help keep their bark healthy. But as they exude these and we breathe them in, our body is stimulated to produce more white blood cells, the kind that are referred to by doctors as NK cells, natural killer cells. And these attack mutant cells, cells that are degrading or could break down into cancer in our bloodstream. So there's an actual physical health benefit. The other, in America, there was a movement for a while. I think it started in the 80s before, and then became known as just rooting or grounding.
Yes,
right?
grounding, yes.
It was called earthing. And it began being studied by NIH, and they did 20 case studies with people who had extreme inflammation or wounds that wouldn't heal. So we actually take in energetically through our feet and hands, we take in the earth's energy, and it has a physical effect on our body. So our body heals. It reduces inflammation, and the wounds heal. The more time you can spend out there on that lawn, the better.
Does it have to be barefoot?
It should be.
Okay.
It's better. But of course, in our climate, we can't go barefoot in the snow. So with some of the patients, the NIH was using electrodes and attaching them to items that were outside. But forest bathing, I'm teaching it now. And as I say to the students who come, I've taught it, I think 3 times. You won't find a part 2 because this becomes a personal practice. All we're doing is giving you this information about its history, the physical benefits, the mental benefits. It's a form of meditation.
Okay.
But when I take people out into the trees and they touch the trunk, or you align your whole back along the trunk, touching your head and your heels and your back up, you're touching all your chakra points, right? So you will feel something, see something, or hear something.
Okay.
90% sure you will.
Wow. I want to try that this
weekend.
Yes.
Yeah, but you do have to spend a few minutes there.
Okay.
You do your breathing, you quiet your mind, and you just go. There's a particular row of trees in the Saratoga Spa State Park.
I know those.
The one near the Roosevelt Baths. Yes, walking with a friend there yesterday, I pointed it out to her, and she said, I can feel that energy, and I feel the trees calling to me. But she didn't have time to go.
Oh, so she'll go back.
She has to come back. Yes.
But so anyone can go. Is there do you let the tree call to you, and is that how you know you're a tree?
That's a great question. You just look and see what tree calls your attention.
Okay.
So if one is looking pretty or the sun is shining on one and you just feel drawn to it, you're being drawn to it for a reason. So it doesn't matter what size or shape. I had people with tiny little trees and giant trees. The reason I started teaching this is I was in Maryland once walking on a nature trail. There was a huge old tree, a very wide trunk. And I thought, oh, you must be very old. So I started sort of speaking to it and I put my hands on it. And it showed me a picture of what the land there in Columbia, Maryland used to look like before all the development by the Rouse Company. It's a planned community. So very crowded, but they have green space. But the tree missed the days when it was just farmland.
It was communicating with you.
It was communicating.
So I love that. All right, so that's what forest bathing is. And
yes.
How do you
Shinrin-yoku.
Shinrin-yoku. I'm going to learn this word. Shinrin-yoku. So my next question was connection to your heart-centered awareness. So is there ways that our listeners can tune in and do that? And how will that help them with happiness?
Yeah, boy, it's key. Those who like to do research could research some of this on the HeartMath Institute, which is in California. But it is true that our heart has 40,000 neurons. So it thinks, you know the expression, I have a gut instinct about this? Or, my heart is telling me. Yeah, your heart is telling you. And your gut too, your gut thinks too. So we don't just think with our brain. Through all the study I've been doing over the past 4 years, I'm learning that the brain runs the body. Yes, we only use a tiny capacity of our brain. It keeps the vessel programmed. It keeps the heart beating, the blood pumping. It controls the fight or flight reflex, right?
Yes.
So when we want to engage something other than our fight or flight reflex, we're looking for the rest, relax, and digest reflex. We usually get there through breathing and meditation. Well, that's one way to start moving into your heart.
Yes.
It's you consciously think with your mind, I want to take this to a heart level. And it's almost like you can feel the energy going into your heart. You can hold your hand on your heart and you breathe into it. Usually just 3 slow, gentle breaths.
We're breathing, guys.
We're breathing. We hope you're breathing with us. And then you allow, what does my heart want me to know? Now, I'm feeling that right now as a tingly feeling, but other people might get a picture. We all have different clairs.
Yes.
Clairaudient, we hear things. Clairsentient, we feel things. Clairvoyant, we see things.
Yes.
So you have a clair.
Who's your clair? You got to figure out who your clair
find your clair, or you don't find your clair, but you practice this, or if you have a decision to make, you you are paying attention to what your mind is telling you, but your mind is always protective and fear-based, right?
Yes.
So it's going to say, oh, don't do that. Don't go there. Don't, yes, you might want to listen to that if you're getting an overwhelming feeling, like your whole body is telling you not to get in the car at a certain point, or you're delayed in leaving. I think we've all had that happen.
Yes.
And then we see the accident that we were protected from.
Yes.
Because it wasn't our time.
It wasn't, yeah.
To operate from heart center awareness, I think you have to have some level of belief in divine being or divine guidance.
Yes.
There is a higher something. You can call it consciousness, you can call it God, but that is what is compelling us, particularly now, because we're actively in the age of Aquarius over the past couple of years. And this started in the 60s in this movement, but it is now more of an energetic time when we are learning to think and feel through our heart and learn compassion for one another. And the big lesson we're all meant to learn is that we're all one.
Yes.
This is the hardest lesson to
Especially
learn.
now, right? Yes, with the elections and everything.
It
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
It is. So I try to use the analogy of we're all fish in the sea.
Okay.
There are some sharks and some whales. The whales are very sentient, intelligent beings, or the dolphins. The sharks have their purpose. We're afraid of them for good reason. Right? We have to keep our distance or learn how to be around the sharks. But we're all fish in the sea. We all have the same basic human needs for love and safety and security, for family. That's universal.
So coexisting, right?
They call this unity consciousness. Unity consciousness. And this is really what many people are calling it, just presence, being fully present and seeing one another.
Yes.
If you saw the movie Avatar, then you know what this is. And another Avatar movie is coming out because it's time.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is more out there. Some of it's being taught to us in films. Many, many books are out there. Books about the soul, journey of souls. These are beautiful books to read for those who are really interested in this, in pursuing this further. It goes hand in hand with the meditation.
Yes.
Just quieting yourself and learning to listen to your heart. So it will be a personal practice for any of you, anyone who can find this way into your heart. It's well worth it.
It is. Yeah. Especially if they, like you said, they have a decision to make, right? And tuning in and like
tuning in,
getting quiet, right? And
and I think it helps to put your hand on your heart.
I do too. Yeah.
And I did a lot of that in Mount Shasta. We had our hand on our heart quite a lot. When I'm working on the heart chakra, of course, with women, I don't put my hand on their heart. I hold it above, but the energy can still be felt. So there's a lot of energy that moves in and out of the heart.
Yes.
And sometimes you can feel your heart hurt when you're in pain for someone.
Absolutely.
Those are those neurons activating.
That, or I've noticed when people get maybe like an asthma outbreak or bronchitis or some kind of disease in the lungs, right?
Yeah.
Like really take a look what's going on in your life.
Yes.
How's your heart chakra?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you need to clear it, you can find a Reiki practitioner or any kind of an energy healer. You can use crystals.
Yes.
Sometimes rose quartz is the crystal for your heart.
Yes.
So somewhere, just go get a rose quartz. Just when you're meditating, place it right on your heart. You can lie down when you meditate. Some say no, but I do a lot of meditation.
Yes, I love it. Especially before bed. That's always good.
Yeah. Or first thing in the morning. I start with my gratitude. Grateful to be alive, grateful for my family, for the love in my life. And then I go into sending love out to people.
Yes.
I was on the plane coming back from California and we had some really rough air taking off and landing. I used my Reiki and I sent love to everyone on the plane. I could feel the energy going out. I sent it to the pilot, the captain, and co-pilot. I said, I appreciate and have gratitude for everything you've learned. I know you've been in worse situations than this before, but I trust you and I have faith in you.
Yes.
And we will have a smooth landing and a safe landing. And we did.
Yeah. And she's here today, guys.
I'm here.
It worked.
I do not love flying.
So that was worth it. That
It
trip,
helps.
Mount Shasta, which can we show them your horse?
Yes.
Because, all right, so it's so funny. Molly comes in because I've been talking to my boyfriend for months now about going to Mount Shasta. And she comes in and she's like, yeah, Mount Shasta. I just got back. I'm like, no way. This is a sign from the universe that I need to book my trip.
It does. Yeah. It's no accident
Yes,
that I mentioned it or tell you where you're going to stay.
Yeah, exactly. But she shows me, look at this.
This beautiful,
It's so
it's made by a Zuni, a native Zuni American in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And he's made of the rock there, and he has turquoise feet. He's very little, but he's apparently very powerful. So I took him with me to Mount Shasta.
Can I hold him?
Yes.
Oh.
So do you know about holding in your receiving hand?
No, I didn't know.
So are you right-handed?
Yes.
Put them in your left hand.
Oh, so guys,
so when you're choosing a crystal, try to use your receiving. This is the feminine side of the body. This is the masculine. This is the spiritual side, the physical side. All right. So usually I use my left hand, and if I'm going to buy a crystal, I pick it up and I see if I feel it.
Yeah. Oh, so he's in my left hand, guys. I'm in right hand. All right. So here's this little guy. Does he have a name? Or is it a he or a she?
It's a he. I just call him Zuni horse.
Zuni, he's so cute.
Zuni horse. So a woman who came from an indigenous tribe in Ontario, Canada, was with us, teaching us how to make rattles and drums and leading us in the water ceremony. So I brought her on the last day, my Zuni horse, and she held him and she said, he's very powerful. And then she blessed him. And when I picked him up to come here today, I could feel the energy shoot right up my arm.
Like he's making my whole left arm bubbly. Yes. It feels like I just drank champagne or something in my left
He's
arm.
moving energy.
Oh, he's so cute. Okay, Suni, you're going to go back.
Yeah.
Go home.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, isn't it? So everything has energy. I guess that was just an illustration.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. The trees have energy that to share with us. Crystals have energy. Rocks. Water.
Water is huge.
Yeah. And there was another Japanese researcher who studied water crystals.
I'm reading that book now. I'm 3/4 of the way through. Messages of Water or something. It's called. You guys, this book is fascinating.
The photos are amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a read. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Anyone wants to read that.
And you can even find it on YouTube. You can find the images because he took water crystals, frozen water crystals, put them under a microscope in a clinical setting. And some of them came from pure water sources, some from maybe the Tokyo
like polluted
water. Yeah. And then he sent negative messages or wrote notes that were negative, and others he played classical music.
Wasn't there ones where he ignored them too?
He ignored them. Yes. The crystals mutate when they're ignored or given negative feedback. It sensitizes you to what the feeling is of someone that you may have harmed through intentional or unintentional acts or deeds or words. It was powerful.
Yes,
to read this.
So you read that. Yeah,
definitely.
The ignoring
recommend
part
that.
was like, wow, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I have one more question for you if you have time. Yes. So, what are some tips that our listeners can do at home to help them calm their mind and activate like that happiness center in their life? You know, to really tune in and I'd love to give this example. Like you are so different from what I knew you from in 2019, and your happiness, and like you can feel it, and your posture, is more open, and you're just happy and bubbly, and you can breathe better.
Yeah.
And you're like almost glowing. So how can our listeners?
68.
Yeah, that's amazing. So how can our listeners that are maybe feeling like that concave, shell of a person, how can they be more like you?
Okay. Well, everyone has access to this. So first, you need to cut back on your time with social media and television. I'm not saying you eliminate it, but those of you who are consuming news, cut back. It's really, you could absorb it through certain sources. I might recommend print versus television. Sorry to all my television friends out there. But the other is meditation, however brief, if it's 5 minutes. Breathing, using your breath. Breath work is another very valid method of energy healing. And there are breath work people who conduct breathwork classes, but just slowing your breathing, counting your breath, exhaling twice as long as you inhale, not So you're taking in too much, but slow, gentle breathing.
Yes.
And then the other is water. Drinking as much pure water, staying hydrated as you can. Pure water is important, and it doesn't always come from a tap. It depends on where you live. It could be your well. It could be bottled. But staying hydrated, getting enough sleep. You are meant to have more sleep. It's when our soul travels. It's when we heal. Our body heals when we're sleeping. Our cells regenerate. Your cells are regenerating all the time. Give them the opportunity. Give them enough water. Give them enough rest.
Yes.
And maybe buy a rose crystal.
There you go. So, Molly, thank you so much for coming in.
Pleasure.
I feel like you helped our audience learn some tips on happiness.
I hope so. I hope you all find whatever your place of happiness is. Yes. It's a simple gift to be happy.
It
a
is.
gift to be free from that Shaker hymn, a gift to come down where you ought to be. When you're in the place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight.
Oh, yay. So, Molly, where can they find you?
Lifeclarity.net. And I do Reiki at Complexions Saratoga. For those of you who live in the 518, we do Reiki there on Thursday evenings, which is where I'm headed now.
Oh, yay! And I will link her website in the show notes. And you're on LinkedIn, I know, and Facebook.
And Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, no TikTok yet?
No, I haven't. I'm a boomer.
So I'll link all of her ways to get in touch with Molly in the show notes. And thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great to see you.
Yes, you too. All right, bye. Have a happy day, everyone. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. To stay connected to me, please visit my website at chooseahappyday.com. And at the bottom, just sign up for my email list to be notified of any upcoming events, book launches, as well as new podcasts. Until next time, have a happy day.